One of the biggest requests that I get is when real estate agents call me, and this happens almost on every single transaction, and they want to know when they can remove the financing contingency. So basically, if you don't know, the financing contingency is the clause in the real estate contract that says that financing is no longer a condition of buying the property. And that's a pretty big deal, all right? My name is Zevi. I'm an owner of a company called Brook Inc. We're a wholesale mortgage company in Los Angeles, California. So if you're interested in knowing when is a good time for you to remove the financing contingency, then you're watching the right video. Ready? Let's get started. So basically what I want to do is walk you through the different phases of the loan. Okay, so when we get started in the transaction, we are in processing mode, right? We're getting all the documents collected. Hopefully we already pre-approved the borrower, meaning that we already ran all the ratios. We know the file is going to qualify. We did this ahead of time, and we have most of the documents available for when you pull the trigger and say, yes, I went ahead and I got this offer accepted. Now, once this offer is accepted, we go through gathering the rest of the documents, which we of course don't have simply because they are purchase specific, right? So we get the lender package from escrow and title, and we submit it over to processing. And processing determines that they have all the pieces of documents that are necessary to go ahead and upload so they can get reviewed for submission to underwriting, right? So that's the first piece of the puzzle, is the processing piece, making sure we have a complete file when the offer gets accepted. Just want to be very clear about that. The second step of it is once all the documents in fact are in and we can acknowledge that yes, now we have a full package, everything we need to underwrite, meaning make a credit decision on the file moves from processing to underwriting, all right? So now at this point of the game, you are waiting for an underwriter to review basically all of the work that we've done in-house to make sure that your file is stamped approved, or at least conditionally approved, meaning that there's going to be some pending conditions, hopefully not too many if we've done a great job sizing up the file, but the file is now in underwriting. So when I receive questions about, hey, would now be a good time to remove the financing contingency because we have X amount of days written into our contract. The question is, what does the underwriting piece look like? Assuming that everything has been provided to us, assuming that we have received all the right information up front, then 9 out of 10 times we should be able to adhere to the timeline of the contract, which is the goal, right? We want to be able to close a transaction in a timely manner for you to be able to acquire the property. That's everyone's goal. However, if there's any other things that haven't been disclosed to us or come up during the process of underwriting, and now mind you, these things don't necessarily have to do with you as a buyer or a borrower. They could have let's assume for a second that the property has other title issues that need to get resolved, right? That may not be something that's associated with us. Maybe something has popped up on you as a buyer personally. Maybe there has been some kind of a credit error that popped up and now we have to deal with, or a credit item that wasn't known about, or a title item that wasn't known about. My point is, I could go on for a while. There could be a million different things, and we have to address these things. Also things like solar that are tied to the property, right? A lot of times it takes a little bit of time to get the solar agreements, the transfer agreements, depending on what they may be. There may be a transfer, there may be a buyout. My point is, unless we are out of the underwriting process, so right, we started processing, we're in underwriting now, we have to move the file to closing, meaning that when you're in underwriting and we're conditionally approved, right? We got stamped approved. That's the goal. We have to meet these conditions. And until such time that we have met all of the conditions and the file has gone through a process called clear to close, which basically means, and you're gonna hear about this, a CTC. What does that mean? So before the file goes to closing, a couple things need to happen, right? Initially, disclosures go out, you acknowledge the disclosures, the file moves to underwriting. When we're in underwriting, there's a credit decision, hopefully within a couple of days, the file gets stamped conditionally approved. Now there's a document that needs to go out. It's called the closing disclosure. It's the CD. There's different things, milestones in the transaction that need to happen, such as insurance, appraisal, different things that need to get cleared out. Once they do, that closing disclosure goes out. And it's important that it's acknowledged immediately because it opens up a door to be able to move to docs within 3 business days. All right? And so unless that happens, you can't officially move to docs. My point is that when we get that call from the real estate agent, A, we're getting a lot of pressure from the listing agent. Can we, in fact, remove the financing contingency? The answer is absolutely not, unless the buyer wants to put their deposit, their EMD, their earnest money deposit, that 3% that you deposited into escrow within the first 3 days of the transactions, unless you want to put that in risk, you definitely don't want to sign off your financing contingency until your file is officially out of underwriting, meaning all these conditions have been met. Because once you're out of underwriting and into closing, we will never actually tell you to remove your financing contingency until your loan is funded. However, if you choose to do so, it would be really dangerous game to play while your loan is in underwriting. The reason I'm telling you this is because I get asked this question so many times, simply because sellers don't really care. They just want to put pressure on the buyer to be able to commit to the deal, and I get it. So by getting the buyer to remove their financing contingency, that means now whether they close on the transaction or they don't, in theory, the seller gets to keep their deposit. And I say in theory because it's not always such an easy process for the seller to keep the buyer's deposit. We're just going to leave it at that. But next time the real estate agent calls and asks, hey, can I remove the financing contingency? You as a buyer have to know, unless all the contingencies have been met, the file has been clear to close and moved from underwriting to closing, the answer on our end is always going to be no, all right? The next question you would ask would be, at what point would it be safe to do so? And I would say that definitely not while the file is in underwriting, all right? So hopefully that answers some of those questions. If you have any questions about that particular process, just drop them in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them for you. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, simply because it will help other people like yourself who are looking for this information on the web be able to retrieve it. And lastly, if you want to see more videos like this in the future, then please feel free to subscribe to my channel. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you watching this. And I look forward to seeing you again on the next video. Take care.